These women are master manipulators who believed they could fool everyone. After displaying a level of evil rarely seen in any courtroom, some sobbed and begged when exposed, while others laughed, smirked, and even bragged about the harm they caused, revealing just how far gone they were. Keep watching as I show you how every act collapses, judges see through the manipulation, and deliver crushing sentences to these mindless killers. Number 10. Michelle Blair. On the 24th of March 2015, eviction crews in Detroit made a horrifying discovery. The frozen bodies of 13-year-old Stoney Blair and 9-year-old Stephen Berry stuffed inside a deep freezer in Michelle Blair's apartment. Blair, a 35-year-old mother of 4, had ended the lives of her own children 2 years earlier and hidden them to continue collecting welfare benefits. She confessed immediately to police, detailing brutal manhandling she inflicted, claiming the kids explicitly and intimately abused their younger sibling. Blair beat Stoney and Stephen with belts, hot irons, and wooden planks until they bled. She scalded them with boiling water, causing severe burns that peeled their skin. Starvation was her weapon too. She withheld food for days, forcing them to drink cleaning fluids. Stephen died first in August 2012 after Blair punched him in the neck, strangled him with a cord, and suffocated him with a plastic bag over his head. He begged for mercy, but she watched him gasp until he became lifeless. 9 months later, in May 2013, she did the same to Stoney, kicking her stomach repeatedly until she vomited blood and died. Blair wrapped their bodies in plastic and stacked them in the freezer, where they rotted for years while she lived with her other 2 kids in the same home. The surviving children, ages 8 and 17, witnessed the horrors and were forced to help hide the crimes. They suffered too. Blair burned them, beat them, and starved them, leaving permanent scars and trauma. The 8-year-old told investigators he saw his brother unalived and helped move the bodies. This shattered their lives. They entered foster care, haunted by nightmares and fear. In court, Blair showed no remorse, erupting in outbursts during a 4th of June 2015 custody hearing for her surviving kids. She screamed and admitted to ending the life of Stoney, shocking the courtroom. On June 5, she yelled again, admitting to both murders while handcuffed. At her June 19 plea hearing, she demanded to plead guilty, saying, "I want to plead guilty to exactly what I did." The judge initially rejected it on June 26, worried about her mental state, but accepted it on June 29 after evaluations showed she was competent. Blair ranted in court, accusing the dead children of molesting the youngest, justifying her actions as protection. Prosecutors presented graphic evidence, autopsy photos showing broken bones, burns, and malnutrition. Blair smirked during testimonies, calling her acts justice. On the 17th of July 2015, she was sentenced to life without parole for 2 counts of first-degree murder, plus 25 to 50 years for torture and child abuse. She declared she had no remorse, as the judge called her a monster. The case exposed failures in child welfare. Blair had prior abuse reports but slipped through. Number 9. Taylor Schabusiness. On the 23rd of February 2022, Tara Thyrion found her son Shad's severed head in a bucket in her Green Bay basement, covered in blood and a towel. Taylor Schabusiness, 24, a mother with a young son, had strangled 24-year-old Shad during meth-fueled sex, then dismembered him over hours. She used a bread knife to decapitate him, slicing through his neck while his body was still warm. Schabusiness cut off his genitals, legs, and arms, stuffing parts into bags and a crock-pot. She drained his blood in the shower, leaving organs scattered. One leg was in her van, penis in a storage tote. She admitted enjoying the cutting, saying it was fun, and she went crazy. Shad died from strangulation with a dog chain. She pulled until he turned purple and stopped breathing. After, she performed acts on his corpse. Police found meth residue everywhere, confirming drugs fueled the rampage. Shad, a kind young man working at a restaurant, trusted her as a friend. His family was devastated, his mother traumatized for life after the discovery. His body was mutilated beyond recognition, denying him dignity even in death. Schabusiness's son, then 2, lost his mother to prison, facing a broken future. In court, her trial started the 24th of July 2023 for first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and third-degree sexual assault. She attacked her lawyer in February 2023 during a hearing, lunging at him after he requested a delay. Guards tackled her as she screamed. During the trial, she laughed at graphic photos of Shad's remains, which shocked jurors. Prosecutor detailed how she strangled Shad with the chain, then used knives from the kitchen. Autopsy expert Vincent Tranchida testified Shad was alive when strangled, suffering immense pain. Schabusiness claimed insanity, but psychologist Diane Litton said she faked symptoms. She smirked during victim impact statements, showing no remorse. Jury deliberated just 45 minutes on July 26, finding her guilty on all counts. At sentencing on the 26th of September 2023, Judge Thomas Walsh gave her life without parole, calling her acts heinous. Schabusiness dropped her appeal in March 2025, accepting fate. Number 8. Aileen Wuornos. On the 30th of November 1989, Aileen Wuornos shot and killed Richard Mallory, a 51-year-old electronics shop owner, marking the start of her year-long killing spree. Wuornos was 33, a sex worker and mother who gave up her son for adoption at birth. She targeted men along Florida highways, claiming self-defense from attempts to force their way with her. Because of this, she murdered 7. Mallory, David Spears, who was shot 6 times, Charles Cascadden, who she gave 9 bullets, Peter Seams, whose body was never found, Troy Burress, got 2 shots, Charles Humphreys got 6 shots, and Walter Antonio, who got 4 shots. Each victim was robbed of cash, cars, and valuables. She dumped bodies in woods, leaving them to rot. Mallory was found with pants down, shot in the chest multiple times. Spears, a trucker, stripped naked and decomposed. Cascadden, a rodeo worker, riddled with bullets. Burress and Humphreys killed days apart in July 1990. Antonio, a security guard, beaten and shot. Victims were everyday men, fathers, workers, their families shattered by sudden loss and gruesome details. Wuornos' son, given up due to her abusive childhood, never knew her but carried the stigma. She was arrested the 9th of January 1991, after which she confessed but later recanted, saying all was self-defense. Trial for Mallory's murder began January 1992. Prosecutors showed similar patterns in killings, proving premeditation. Wuornos testified, claiming Mallory raped her, but evidence showed no struggle. She yelled at the judge, wishing that his wife and daughter suffer similar fate as her. The jury convicted her of first-degree murder in 90 minutes. She got death. In later trials for other murders, she pleaded no contest, receiving more death sentences. Appeals focused on her mental health, abused as a child, bipolar, but courts rejected insanity. She dropped appeals in 2001, saying, "I killed those men, robbed them as cold as ice." Executed the 9th of October 2002 by lethal injection, her last words, "I'll be back." The spree terrorized Florida, changing how sex workers and hitchhikers were viewed. Victims' families fought for justice, but the pain of her calculated evil lingered. Number 7. Chelsea Duperon. On the 16th of March 2024, Chelsea Duperon, 30, called police to her Wayne, Michigan home, where her 8-year-old daughter Lila Cassell lay dead from brutal abuse. Duperon initially lied, saying Lila fell downstairs, but evidence showed severe beatings. She blamed evil spirits and a mystery woman for possessing and harming the child. Autopsy revealed Lila suffered multiple blunt force traumas, broken bones, internal bleeding, and starvation. Duperon punched, kicked, and slammed Lila against walls for days, ignoring her cries. The girl endured cruel treatment, withheld food, forced to stand in corners for hours, beaten with objects. Lila died alone in agony, her small body covered in bruises. As a single mom, Duperon isolated Lila, homeschooling her to hide the abuse. Neighbors reported hearing screams, but no intervention came soon enough. Lila's death robbed her of a future. Family described her as bright, loving, now gone forever. Duperon got charged on the 19th of March 2024 with felony murder and first-degree child abuse. At arraignment, Duperon appeared calm, denying bond. Preliminary exam revealed her confessions. She admitted hitting Lila repeatedly. On the 1st of July 2025, she pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, avoiding trial. At sentencing the 28th of July 2025, Duperon spoke, saying, "I failed as a mother, but showed little emotion." Prosecutor Kim Worthy detailed the horror, calling it unimaginable cruelty. Judge sentenced her to 28 to 50 years, noting no remorse. Family wept as victim statements described Lila's suffering. Number 6. Sakina Muhammad. Sakina Muhammad's case began with a call in which she confessed to killing her boyfriend in self-defense. At just 21 years old, Sakina stood accused of killing 27-year-old Quan Winston Jr., a man with a documented history of domestic violence. On the surface, the story appeared tragically familiar, a young woman pushed to her limits by an abusive partner. But as the evidence unfolded, the narrative shifted from survival to something far more deliberate. Their relationship was marked by chaos. Neighbors recalled frequent screaming matches, police visits, and violent confrontations that spilled into public view. Winston had already been arrested twice for domestic assault and had recently pleaded no contest to aggravated assault against Sakina herself. A protective order was in place, barring him from contact, yet Winston ignored it and returned to the apartment they once shared, where their 11-month-old daughter also lived. On the 13th of March 2022, police responded to a grim scene. Winston's body was found at the bottom of a stairwell with a gunshot wound to the head. The apartment was silent. Sakina and the baby were gone. The next day, Sakina walked into a police station and confessed, telling officers Winston had been choking her and she feared she would die if she didn't act. Initially, her claim appeared plausible. Years of documented abuse supported her fear, but witnesses soon dismantled the self-defense narrative. Neighbors testified they heard Winston begging for his life. One recalled Sakina screaming that he was going to die tonight. Another testified that Winston pleaded to be allowed to go, only to hear Sakina respond that she would end his life. Investigators uncovered another critical detail. Just 30 minutes before the shooting, Sakina had posted on social media that she was single as a MF. Prosecutors argued this was not the voice of a trapped victim, but someone already envisioning life after the killing. In court, Sakina denied planning the shooting and expressed difficulty looking at photos of Winston's body. Yet when offered the chance to speak before sentencing, she addressed only one person, her daughter. She offered no apology to Winston's family, no acknowledgement of his death beyond its impact on her child. The jury found her guilty on all counts, including first-degree murder and felony firearm charges. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Sakina Muhammad entered the courtroom, claiming self-defense. She left condemned, not as a survivor, but as a woman whose words, actions, and timing convinced a jury that fear had given way to intent. Number 5. Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias's crime was not impulsive. It was prolonged, intimate, and ferocious. On the 4th of June, 2008, Travis Alexander was attacked in his own bathroom after spending time with his ex-girlfriend. What followed was an explosion of violence rarely seen in modern homicide cases. Travis was stabbed 27 times. His throat was slit so deeply it nearly severed his head. Finally, he was shot in the face. Investigators later confirmed he was still alive during much of the attack. Blood covered the walls and floors, and drag marks showed attempts to move his body. Photos recovered from a camera told the story frame by frame, Travis alive in the shower, then images of his lifeless body moments later. Jodi claimed self-defense, alleging abuse. Prosecutors dismantled her story using phone records, text messages, and forensic inconsistencies. Travis had confided to friends that Jodi stalked him, broke into his home, and terrified him. In court, Jodi's demeanor shifted constantly. She cried softly one moment, stared coldly the next, changing her version of events whenever challenged. Prosecutors emphasized the sheer excess of violence. This was not escape, but rage. The jury convicted her of first-degree murder. At sentencing, Jodi shocked the court by stating she would prefer death over life in prison, calling death the ultimate freedom. Jurors later said her words felt mocking. Though the jury deadlocked on the death penalty, the judge sentenced her to life without parole. Cameras later captured Jodi smirking as she was transported away. For Travis Alexander's family, no sentence could undo the damage. Jodi Arias left behind a legacy not just of violence, but of arrogance in the face of justice. Case 4. Lisa Montgomery. Lisa Montgomery's crime horrified the nation, not just for its violence, but its betrayal of motherhood. In December 2004, she strangled 23-year-old pregnant Bobby Jo Stinnett, cut her baby from her womb, and left her to die. Montgomery had faked pregnancies for years. When her lies collapsed, she chose murder. Fortunately, the baby survived. Bobby Jo did not. Despite defense claims of mental illness, the jury found Montgomery guilty and sentenced her to death. In January 2021, she became the first woman executed by the U.S. government in nearly 70 years. She offered no final words. Justice was delivered, but the horror remains. Number 3. Katherine Knight. On the 29th of February 2000, police in Aberdeen, Australia, entered a home expecting a welfare check. What they found shattered even veteran officers. John Price's body was hanging from a meat hook, skinned entirely. His flesh had been cooked. Plates were set at the table, labeled with his children's names. Katherine Knight had stabbed Price 37 times before mutilating his body. Prosecutors argued the crime was calculated, not spontaneous. The preparation of the meal proved intent. Jurors struggled to endure the evidence. Some required counseling. Katherine showed no emotion. She claimed memory loss, but the jury rejected it. She became the first woman in Australian history sentenced to life without parole. The judge declared she would never be released. Number 2. Shauna Hubers. Shauna Hubers did not fit the public's image of a killer. She was intelligent, articulate, and seemingly fragile. Yet she instead became the center of one of Kentucky's most disturbing obsession-driven murder cases. Her victim was Ryan Poston, a young attorney with a promising career and a social life that reflected ambition and independence, everything Shauna feared losing. Their relationship was volatile from the start, defined by constant breakups and reconciliations. Over 18 months, they separated and reunited nearly a dozen times. Ryan eventually made it clear he wanted out for good. Shauna, however, refused to accept that reality. She flooded him with texts and calls, monitored his movements, and clung to the belief that if she couldn't have him, no one could. On the 12th of October 2012, Ryan planned to go on a date with Miss Ohio. He never made it. That night, Shauna called 911 and calmly reported she had shot her boyfriend in self-defense. Police arrived at Ryan's condo to find his body riddled with bullets, 6 gunshot wounds, including one to the head. 5 of those shots were fired after he had already fallen. During interrogation, Shauna's demeanor stunned investigators. She joked about shooting Ryan in the face, saying she had given him the nose job he wanted. She laughed, rambled, sang Amazing Grace, and even danced, displaying a detachment that bordered on celebratory. Detectives watched in disbelief as she appeared more amused than remorseful. At trial, prosecutors presented a chilling argument. Ryan was alive for every shot. Forensic evidence showed he was standing when the first bullet hit and defenseless by the time the final shots were fired. The defense claimed Ryan was controlling and abusive, arguing Shauna acted in panic. But her own words betrayed her. In recorded interviews, she admitted she was good at acting. The jury convicted her in 2015, but the verdict was overturned due to a juror's undisclosed criminal record. Shauna faced trial again in 2018. This time, prosecutors reinforced the pattern of obsession, harassment, and manipulation. When the second guilty verdict was read, Shauna collapsed into sobs, burying her face in her attorney's lap. The jury was unmoved. She was sentenced to life in prison. The court concluded Shauna Hubers was not a victim frozen by fear, but a woman whose obsession escalated into execution. Justice, this time, could not be undone. Number 1. Beverly McCullum. Some crimes are disturbing because of violence, others because of motive. Beverly McCullum's case horrified investigators because it appeared to lack both emotion and necessity. Instead, it suggested something far colder. The crime came to light on the 2nd of May 2002, when a Michigan blueberry farmer spotted smoke in the woods. Expecting a brush fire, he instead discovered a scorched metal footlocker. Inside were human remains burned beyond recognition. The victim would remain unidentified for over a decade. Advances in DNA technology eventually named the victim as 37-year-old Roberto Caraballo. His killer was his wife, Beverly McCullum. Testimony from Beverly's daughter, Deneen Ducharme, and accomplice Christopher McMillan revealed the murder was planned. Roberto was lured into the basement, where Beverly initiated the attack. McMillan struck him with a hammer until it lodged in his skull. As Roberto struggled to breathe, Beverly placed a plastic bag over his head and watched him suffocate. Afterward, they stuffed his body into a footlocker, doused it with accelerant, and burned it before abandoning it in the woods. The most chilling revelation came later. Beverly's daughter testified that her mother wanted to practice killing someone. This was not rage or desperation, it was rehearsal. For years, Beverly evaded justice, fleeing overseas while her accomplices faced prison. Deneen received life. McMillan was sentenced to 15 to 40 years. Beverly was finally captured in Italy in 2020 and extradited back to the United States. In court, Beverly showed no emotion. She rolled her eyes during testimony, yawned during closing arguments, and even fell asleep while her attorney pleaded for mercy. When her daughter broke down on the stand, Beverly never looked at her. She was convicted of second-degree murder and mutilation of a corpse, receiving a sentence of 40 to 60 years. The judge called her dangerous and incapable of remorse. For those in the courtroom, the lasting horror wasn't just the brutality, but the sense that Beverly McCullum viewed murder not as a crime, but as an experiment.